ladies. Welcome back to the Curate for Women Network. Today we have the beautiful Miss Vanessa LaFleur. Vanessa, do you prefer to be called Vanessa Caston LaFleur or Vanessa LaFleur?
My mother prefers Vanessa Caston LaFleur because I was a Caston first. And I prefer Caston LaFleur because I am my father's legacy.
Okay, so was your mom, what was your mom before she was a Caston?
She was a Robertson.
And so is she Robinson Caston?
No, she is Laura Caston.
Okay, because she gave that name back to her ancestors.
Right, she gave that name back. She's Laura Lynn Caston now.
Okay.
I am Vanessa Lynn Caston LaFleur.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
Okay, so your mama love your daddy.
Love.
Okay. Because I also gave my name back to the ancestors.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I have 3 brothers, so I'm like, y'all got that.
Right.
Do what you're supposed to do.
You're supposed to do.
Because we're not going back.
Look, speaking of that, for the LaFleur name, my son forever was the only grandson. And he's 16 and has been having conversations about carrying on the family name since he was a kid. And I'm always like, why do you think about this? But my brother-in-law just had a son.
Oh,
so
yay.
Pressure's off.
Right, pressure is off. No, pressure's still on. He put that pressure on himself,
right,
so do well. Right. Carry that name well. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with Ms. Vanessa, she is our state representative for District 101.
Yes.
Correct?
The fabulous District
The
101.
fabulous District 101. So tell us about that. What does it mean to be a state representative?
It means to be the voice of the people. They send me to do their bidding and to do their work. They have deemed that I'm qualified to do that for them and to be their voice. That's what the vote says to me. Okay. And so every day that I get up, I'm the voice of 101.
I love that. Do you feel pride in carrying on that title? Do you feel more pressure than pride carrying on that title?
I think there's a little bit of both, because there are expectations there. But the pride for me kind of outweighs it all, that I get to be the voice for my neighbors,
for sure.
That they can walk across the street and talk to me, or I show up at a coffee shop and I have conversations. But it's the pride in just, I want them to have that sort of security that this isn't about me, it's about them.
Yeah. I don't know if there's very many women who have carried on this role. So what does that mean for you?
It means I get to model for little girls,
yes,
and even little boys, that there are opportunities for women that may not have been there before. I absolutely loved coming behind the great Ted James. He's a friend. And actually, because 101 has only seen Ted James, I get to say that I'm the first woman to represent District 101 in the House.
Yes.
So that's another sense of pride as well.
Oh my gosh, congratulations to you for, for doing that and for being brave enough to carry that torch, because I know that can be a lot of pressure, especially being in politics. So what were you doing before you became our state representative?
So before, I was a state employee, a state worker, and which is what I always told people. They were like, what do you do? Because I didn't really want to reveal what I did.
Right.
Primarily because I work for the Department of Revenue. And a lot of people are like, oh, you the IRS? And have to make the explanation that there's a distinct, one's federal, one is state. Right. But in my work with the Department of Revenue, I worked on the legislative side, the policy side. So I was able to help assist legislators in drafting bills and setting the tax agenda for the state. So that was sort of, and it's funny because prior to going into the legislature, Ted worked at the department and we worked together. So that was fun, right? That's how I became close to him, but I met him initially when we both were working in the Blanco administration. I did over the legal division for the tax commission.
Okay.
And so that was a direct link as well with creating tax policy, but the tax commission deals with tax property.
This is a very grown-up situation.
Yeah, it is.
This is not small ball, little people's jobs.
It is not. And no, I actually, before that, I've just always had the benefit of working at agencies that mattered most to voters. My first job out of law school was with the Public Service Commission. And it's a funny story, I got to tell this.
Okay.
Because I was a test. I was supposed to go on a job interview for an agency who had never hired an African-American attorney before.
Oh, wow.
And it's history, right? So Judge Clark sends me on an interview, go in, if they don't hire you, we are suing them. I call her up 2 weeks later, Judge, I got the job, you know?
Oh.
So you can't sue them, I got the job, and now I'm thinking, so is that it? Now your test is this? And she said, no, you got to go work now. You have to take it.
Right.
It was a cut and pay from the previous job. So I had to have that sort of conversation with myself. It's like, do I take the cut and pay?
Right.
Or do I sort of go out and do this? So I took the cut and pay and took the job. It wasn't long that I was able to elevate, because when I actually left that agency, I was head of the legal division.
Wow. So, okay. Because they sent you into the fire as a Black woman.
Yes.
They clearly are not Black. Who sent you into this fire?
No.
So they don't even know what this fire feels like.
They don't know what it feels like.
Well, this is definitely one of those situations where you're like, I came in qualified.
Yes.
You should have sent another Black girl in here, because I definitely understood the assignment. Okay.
Yes.
How did that feel, working in that space, knowing that you were on assignment and not actually there to... I mean, you were clearly there to do the job.
Clearly there to do the job.
But you were also there on assignment.
On assignment. And that assignment was to break a barrier.
Okay.
So I understood that. And in that space, there was nobody that looked like me. It's regulatory law.
Yeah.
So it was telecommunications, energy law, the water law. It wasn't, chasing criminals or ambulances.
Right.
Always the only one in the space. So I loved that opportunity. I learned a lot. But it also said that I had to bring some people up with me.
For sure.
So while there, I brought on the second attorney.
For sure.
That looked like me to work for the agency. I brought on the third attorney that looked like me to work for the agency. So we ended up having 3 African American attorneys in an agency that had 0 in its entire existence.
Oh, I
One
love
of them
it.
is my good friend, State Representative Edmund Jordan.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Talking about trailblazing. Now, honestly, that's the space for Curate. We love highlighting women who not only are trailblazing in the community, but they don't mind reaching back and saying, hey, come with me.
Yes.
And not just bringing anybody. It's like, no, you're qualified.
Absolutely.
You belong in this space. And when you get in this space, you'll elevate some more.
Yes.
I love that. And so by trade, you are an attorney.
I am.
What type of law did you see yourself practicing? Was it always?
It was never this.
Okay.
Ever. Because that was never mentioned, that ability. I mean, who thinks about regulatory law? And my whole life has been regulatory law. And that's just fancy for saying we create rules for people to confine themselves within.
Okay.
And for those services, it was, I would tell people when I worked for the commission that there wasn't anything that they came in contact with during the day that this agency wasn't in charge of. Sure. You wake up in the morning, you want a glass of water. We got to make sure that water is water you can drink. You flip your lights on. We got to make sure that you can afford to sort of pay that bill to flip that light on. Those sorts of things that agency that never had representation from us. It was representation on the commission, but even at that time, I was able to serve with the first African American commission.
Yeah.
NER. So it's all of these agents, we all pay property taxes, right? So first African American to lead the legal division at the Property Tax Commission.
Wow.
Why? I mean, these are spaces for us because these things matter to us.
Right. And also we're in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And to be quite frank, we are very behind on a lot of things that we should be trailblazing in. We are actually the majority here. So I love so many things that you just said, but I always want to ask politicians this. Did you always know that you would be a politician, or did the work just kind of find you in this space?
I always knew I wanted to serve.
Okay.
And terming it a politician is different for me.
Okay.
So, yeah, my grandfather saw this for me when I was a kid, when I was young. He saw you're going to be a lawyer, because we used to watch Perry Mason together all the time.
Okay.
So he's like, that's you, And so it came to fruition. I think a lot of my friends saw it for me before I saw it, just because of my leadership in this community has been in organizations that matter, organizations that are on the ground, that fill in the gaps where government can't go, or there's no funding for government to go.
Yeah.
So doing that sort of led to this, I think.
Yeah. And also because you're probably the one that's always speaking up for your friends. You're probably the one that's always speaking up for, okay.
I'm the mouth. Yeah.
Did you get in trouble for that in school growing up?
I'm the one that when I go away, because I'm a big Saints fan, to games, I get a speech from my husband, don't interact. Don't interact, because then I'm going to have to show them. You know?
But then they're going to have to see the real me.
The real me. But yeah, I was, I got the notes home to Mom that said I talk too much.
Oh, I doubt it. And leadership skills. These are leadership
skills, and I wish people would stop doing that, because I wasn't talking too much. I was leading. Exactly.
And so a lot of times teachers don't know how to redirect, right? They don't know how to handle a leader in their class, which is probably not a bad thing, because I think sometimes leaders can be disruptive.
Yes, but aren't we supposed to be?
Absolutely, and that's why you're in the space that you're in. You are a disruptor, and that's always a good thing. And so I just think that speaks to also like empowering young people to, hold your voice.
Yes.
Right? Even if you're getting in trouble for talking too much, make your talking points matter, right? Let's use our voice for good.
Yes.
And so I think that you are definitely doing that. So are you from Louisiana?
I am.
What part of Louisiana?
I grew up in Baton Rouge. I am a graduate of Baton Rouge Magnet High School.
Okay.
Yes, class of '86.
Okay.
And my mother's family, though, are from Pine Grove, Louisiana.
Okay.
And it is one of the poorest parishes in the city.
Oh, wow.
In the state. It is a drive away from where Governor John Bel Edwards is from.
Oh, cool.
Amite, Louisiana. I say Amite because fancy people say that. In Pine Grove, we say Amite.
Amite. All right. So on today, we're gonna say Amite.
So families from Amite, Greensburg, farmers. My family from Kentwood are dairy farmers. But
I love that. Okay. So where did you go to college?
Southern University.
At the Southern University.
A&M College.
Is that where you went to law school too?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
I never left. Let me tell you what happened with law school. So my dean was Dean Prestige, and I absolutely love her. Anyone out there that does not know who Jewel Prestige is, she's the first at everything that matters in life. She passed a few years back. I'm really good friends with her children, but she was a wonderful dean. So the one thing she instilled on us is that if you want it, go and get it, as we were matriculating in poli-sci. So one day, I'm sitting there, I'm like, I'm going to law school, Dean. Well, you got to have money for that. I know. And I'm just like, I know.
I'm going to get it.
I'm going to get it. I'm going to figure all that out later. This is, me in my second year. So by my junior year, Dean had built me up, I think. So I walked across the campus to the law school. I asked to see the dean that was in charge of letting us in, okay? Got a meeting with him, Dean Marshall at the time, and I sat before him and I said, I want to come to law school. I have absolutely no money. Tell me what my LSAT score needs to be in order for you to pay for me to go to law school.
Come on.
He gave me a number, I earned it. I paid not one single dime for law school.
Come on.
So that meant I could take a job at the PSC.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have debt. That's why it's important for Biden to do what he did as it relates to debt. If you can come out of school making choices that will affect you for the rest of your life. Because I'm not saddled with debt.
Absolutely.
That's a big deal.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Because that is the biggest hurdle.
It is.
One, and it is also the biggest burden.
It is. And you know who carries that burden bigger than anyone else? African American women.
For sure. For sure. This African American woman. But I think with what Biden is doing for education, I'm inspired by it. Though I hope that whoever comes after him will carry that torch. For the young people who, I have a 14-year-old son. Whenever he goes to school, I don't want money to be a thing that, that he's having to think about with school. Because then a lot of people, like you said, to go to law school, you have to have the money. You have to do. And so sometimes when we don't have the money, we're not even discouraged. It's like, no, I'm gonna have to pivot, right? We're gonna just have to find something else because I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Which I think by the time he gets to that point, because the generations that are coming up are like bolder and bolder and bolder. By that time, they're like, no, I'm not paying for this. Right. But I'm gonna do it.
They'll take the Welcome House campus and say, but how do I do this for free?
Right. I'm going to do it for free. And
give me a number.
And you're going to let me. How are you? Are you the first in your family to go to college? Are you the first in your family to go to law school?
First at both.
First at
both on from my grandmother's side, and college for me was never a do you go. I was always going to college. Now, from just the immediate first, but I had cousins that from Greensburg all finished in engineering, and I always looked up to them, all males.
Yeah.
And so to see them and always have that time sort of with them, that presented me the opportunity that I can do this. And I've done that to the cousins that have followed me. Absolutely the first generation attorney in the family. I teach at the law school now, and that is the first question that I ask my students is, tell me who you first generation law students are, because you are really going to change the trajectory of your family, and I want to know you, right?
Yes.
So I get the pleasure. I think I've only, in the class, the 40 that I have now, 38 are first generation, and 2 are going into a firm with their family. But it just does my heart well, because it just changes the family when people are able to succeed.
And the culture of our race, like, let's just be honest. When you see so many people who look like you doing it, you then think, oh, if they could do it, I absolutely can do it. And hard is no longer a burden for me, right? It's if it's complicated, that's fine, it's complicated, but if they did it, I can do it.
Yes.
And so let's talk about you being the first. I know that your parents have to be extremely proud. I know that they probably carry you. So how many siblings do you have?
I have 1 brother and 1 sister. I'm the oldest.
So did they follow your footsteps?
They did. Yes.
Good. Oh my God, your parents must
and
be.
get this, my mother was a nurse, an LPN. And she always wanted to be a registered nurse. So my second year of college, she enrolled. So we walked the campus.
Look at you.
Together.
Look at you.
So she retired as a registered nurse.
I love that. I love that for you and mom. So your mom was an LPN, retired registered nurse. What did your dad do?
My dad is deceased. I lost him when I was a sophomore. Right, end of my sophomore year in college.
Oh. Yeah. Was that hard for you?
Painful. But I learned during that time the importance of therapy.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I had to have that.
For sure.
And I had to be at an HBCU, I think, in order to deal with that level of pain, because I didn't get out of bed for weeks.
Yeah.
And my professors understood the depth of my sorrow. Yeah. So they let me take my finals. Yeah. A little later than normal. And my sister was there to say, you didn't eat today. You got to get up. You know. And my mother was a psychiatric nurse, so that worked. So she's like, you have to go see someone, because this isn't normal. Grieving is, but the level of grief that I was having as a result of my dad's passing was just, he was murdered. And so that you can't prepare yourself for something like that, right? And therapy, love, and my sorority sisters not letting me sort of become a stat. You're going to finish school, you know,
for sure.
And just having family there.
Thank God for this village that you had.
I tell you, I don't know that I could have been on any other campus
and
be where I am today.
Yeah, I believe
because that was the time where I could have just been done with life.
Yeah, for sure. Especially being surrounded by people who, they may understand grief, right? And they may only understand it from a place of like empathy, because grief can take a toll on anybody at any moment. Grief doesn't have a specific assignment.
It does not.
You know. And so kudos to your family and to your sorority sisters, which is
AKA.
Okay. Kudos to them for just having your back and you know, and stepping in that gap. And to your mom, how did your mom navigate that time?
My parents were divorced.
Okay.
So that pain was there, but not
the way that you were experiencing
as I was experiencing
it. Okay. And so your siblings?
Yes, they were not as close to my dad as I was.
Because you were the oldest.
I was the oldest, right? And so we lived with my mother here in Louisiana.
Right.
But I got to experience sort of more of him than they did. Their grief was different, and it was okay. My brother was always closer to my uncles. But the most amazing part is he ends up making his life in Portland, Oregon, and that is where my dad made his life. So he gets to sort of navigate the same city streets that he did and see the people and get to know him from a more intimate, in his death.
Full circle.
You know, full circle.
I love that. I love that. So was your dad part of like the reason for your drive? When you got beyond, I feel like you never get beyond grief. That's not a thing. But when you got beyond the place of like, okay, I can do this, right? I can get out of bed. I can go to school. I'm not going to be a stat. Was your dad like a heavy part of your drive after that?
A heavy part, yeah. Honestly, I think it was my sister, my baby sister, the middle child, you know, because she just would not let me stay down. It was her. She was her job to make sure I got up. And I used to be so mad at her because we were at home together, and if I didn't progress, she would call and tell my mom. I'm like, did you really call and tell on me?
Right.
You know. But she was my roommate.
Mind your business.
Right. But she was minding mine.
Yeah.
And so she.
But it's a good thing that she was minding your business.
It is. And
but
to
then
this
also,
day,
Vanessa, she probably needed you. She probably needed you. I feel like if you had folded, she probably would have been like, maybe this is too hard.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I never thought about that.
Yeah, she probably would have been like, okay, no, if she can't do it, I know for sure that I can't do it.
Never thought.
So,
I didn't see it from her. She was just a snitch to me.
Yeah. Right? And at the time, I mean, she probably was. But thank God, because also now you're in a position where Louisiana needs you, right? We need you to be our voice. We need you to continue to be this trailblazer. And you have a whole bunch of other little sisters behind you who are just like, you know, I love this for me, right? Like I love this for you, but I love this for me too.
Yes.
Just opportunities that come with being an African American attorney, with being an African American female attorney. Because I love that you say, you know, you're not chasing ambulances and stuff like that. And good, right? We need more black people doing that too.
Right. That's an industry. And you can make a whole lot of money.
We need that representation everywhere. But a lot of times when people think of, I want to go, you know, to be an attorney, they're either thinking criminal or they're thinking, you know, injury, or they're thinking, you know, a lot of the things that that could really just become monotonous in these spaces, honestly. And so, do you feel like Southern University's Law Center prepared you for your career, for where you are right now?
Absolutely. There's no greater place to be educated in the law in Louisiana, because they do that. They prepare our minds to think beyond the books, right? And I always say, we had a professor, Professor Tidwell, that taught us how to manually research everything. Now, they've got computerized, and they had it. It was new. They had it for us. But I often would hear stories about people working at firms, and if the computers went down, the only lawyer that could go in and do this stuff manually was a Southern trained lawyer, Southern Law School. Right?
Okay.
Because we had to, like, what did those kids say today? We had to get it in mud, right?
Yes.
So we can do it all, but it prepared me. And look at, when you go through the Hall of Fame, the Wall of Fame at Southern, the number of judges, the number of legislators, the number of folk that have matriculated there, and some don't want you to know that.
Yeah.
But we know where you went.
We know where you went.
But absolutely prepares you for whatever it is you want to do. And I love what the Chancellor's doing now, because now, there is a class for those that want to do regulatory law. There's a class for those who want to do things that are outside what everyone else is doing.
Yes.
So, absolutely.
So part of what I do, or not part of what I do, my full-time job is working for Fourth Floor Creative Agency. And we were able to tell the story of this chancellor at Southern University and all these things that he's doing, and creating more spaces for people to be able to practice law in this way and be empowered in that, right? It's like, you're not going to graduate here and then have this huge imposter syndrome.
Right.
And even if you do, it's not because of the school that you graduated from. So that's good. That's beautiful. I'm going to pivot a little because you are Mrs. LaFleur.
I am.
Okay, that is the woman that you are today. So where did you meet your husband, and when did you all get married?
So we got married God, there's a story. First of all, to the world, I'm not having any more babies.
Okay.
And it's going to come around as to why. Okay. We attended the same church. He is also a Southern graduate. My college roommate dated his best friend all through college. Okay. So we sort of knew each other, but didn't know each other, right? Because we're different. Right. We yin and yang. Right. I was at the parties, he was in the studio. Right? Doing his work. So we didn't meet on the campus of Southern. Yeah.
That is interesting because in my mind you went to school and it was like school. Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed
Even though you're about your business,
Let me tell you, I was about my business, but I got every bit of an HBCU experience at Southern.
Yes, I love that.
Bit. I pledged. I was on the homecoming court. Yes. I worked in any organization that would have me. We reinstituted Eastern Stars while I was there.
Yes.
No, full experience.
Girl,
but I also graduated
I did not come to play.
You know,
I didn't come to play. I came to be a part of every single thing. I love that.
Yes. So Brian and I got married on 9/10/01.
Okay.
01. Sydney was 01/02. I get mixed up. 9/11.
Okay.
That year. We were out of the country. So we got married on the 10th, and we were having our first breakfast together as husband and wife, and the news was on, and all we saw was the Twin Towers.
Did you think that was a sign?
No, let me tell you. I was like, what is going on? So it was the next were the two, and he's a scientist, he's an architect. He tells me exactly. He points on the screen and says, if it hits here, they both collapse. So they hit there, and he immediately said planned, because you had to know the structure of the building in order to know where to hit it in order for it to. All of this on our first day of husband and wife.
So romantic.
And my mother is freaking out. It's like, you're not gonna be able to get into the country, right? And so that memory of 9/11 is so connected to just us and our children, and my daughter Sydney, who just made 21. She just had her 20th birthday. It's been 21 years that we've been married.
Yes.
She was born the next year on September 11th. So we're married on the 10th, the same year. The first anniversary, she's a 9/11 baby. My son comes around in 2005 in October. He's a Katrina baby.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I'm not having any more babies because I can't have any more disasters. Right? and I feel bad about it, right?
Oh my God. That both of your kids have to share their birthday with national disasters.
Yeah. Isn't it something? And I share my anniversary. So I'm glad about the day before, because Sydney was supposed to be born on the 10th. And I thought, I'll never have another anniversary if she's born on the 10th. But she came on the 11th, knowing Sydney. And I still haven't had another anniversary because I'm planning birthday parties, right?
Right. No, Sydney, sorry, girl. Your birthday going to have to be planned the next week.
Right.
Because if it wasn't for me and your daddy, you wouldn't have no birthday.
Right. You wouldn't have a birthday. But so Brian is the absolute love of my life. Because he gets
21
me.
years.
21 years, yes.
True yin and yang.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing to say.
We're different.
But I feel like to a certain extent you have to be.
Yeah.
My husband and I are very, very different. We are very, very different. I always say that I make jokes publicly like, oh yeah, I had to re-raise him. No, he absolutely re-raised me. And I also say that I was raised by a pack of wolves because I have 3 older brothers.
Oh yeah.
And I'm the youngest. And so I definitely, I totally understand polar opposites. So 21 years. Did you always know that you guys would make it 21 years?
I did, and let me tell you why. Because his mom and dad have been married 50 plus.
Oh wow!
And so I knew, and we were both divorced when we got married.
Okay.
So there was just something different about him and the dynamics of how important family was to him. So they were both painful scenarios in our previous life.
Right.
But we were both sort of committed. For me, even with the first marriage, but certainly the second marriage, I was committed to not repeating the family cycle.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So whatever it took, and it has taken just two people who decided this is it.
For sure.
You know, we don't want anybody else.
Yes.
We are ride or die.
Yes.
So yeah, you go over there and be mad, but we don't go to bed mad.
Right. Right. And so on a personal note, when you're truly committed to a thing and a person, and a thing, I'm speaking of marriage, right? Because that's an entity. Some people see it as a business. Some people see it as a, but 21 years in marriage, being with somebody that you truly feel like is your yin and yang, being in a total commitment can cause for these bumps in the road. How do you guys navigate difficult conversations? One, separately, but then two, in front of your children. Like, what does that look like?
Oh, it looks like a debate.
Yeah.
Often.
Because you're an attorney.
Yeah, it looks like that, and the boys are always looking at Sydney and I like, where did they get them from, right?
Right.
Because we are so much alike, and so is my son and his dad. They're just very cool. They internalize everything, and they think about stuff. We just say it. I mean, we're thinking about it, but we've thought about it long enough where we can talk about it, right?
Right.
So it's interesting because of who I am, I think. Right? Honestly. I'm going to say what I need to say.
And you're an attorney.
Yeah, right. So it's a debate,
Okay, what's your husband's name?
Brian.
Brian, you met your match.
He made his match, And my brother-in-law I love my brother-in-law because my brother-in-law thinks I'm the best thing since sliced bread.
Oh,
and it's the running joke in the family. It's like nothing else mattered in the family until I came in, right? And I love the relationship that I have with my mother-in-law. I call her my mother-in-law because she is the first, second call that I make when I'm having a day.
Yeah. Oh, I love
because
that.
I know she's going to pray me through it, right?
Yeah.
And even with my friends, when they're going through things, I'm like, hold on, let me get you on the family altar.
Right.
This is happening, and I need you to pray. Put his name on the altar, and we're gonna move. And I call them up, and they're like, "Yeah, Sandra got it." I said, "Y'all good now? Go on, do what you need to do." Right?
I love it.
And my mother is like me. So my mother is the one. Mom, they picking on me. Okay, wait a minute. Get my purse, get my bat. I'm on my way.
Hold my purse. Right. I'm on my way.
So that's they are so different, but but they both will mount up like wings.
Yes, for sure. So that's kind of like how my mom and my mother-in-law is. My mom is from the 9th Ward. Well, my mother and my mother-in-law is from the 9th Ward. But my mama is more nuck if you buck.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law is more like, it really don't take all that to have a conversation.
Right.
Like we could have this conversation with our inside voices.
Right.
We will have this conversation with our inside voices.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I love that. But
your
entire family is this is just true definition of Black love in all facets.
Oh, yes. We support each other. We are there for each other. And I love it. Even there's no sort of in-laws, outlaws, however the folks say it. Our families have done this.
Yes.
We celebrate there's no where are we going to go for Christmas? Where are we going to go for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we're going to do it
We settle
together.
that. It's at our house. Everybody comes over.
Oh, I
right?
love that.
Because we're not splitting our time with our families. We all need to be together.
And so your husband comes from a family who was married for 50 years. You come from what society would call a broken home. So did I. But doing this in the way that you guys are doing it, in a very healthy way, it kind of alleviates this feeling that your children have to now do the work that you guys did to break generational curses.
Right.
So, but also it can be a little bit crippling, or I'm spoiled, right? Because if it don't look like this, I don't want it.
Right.
And I love that.
I love that too.
I love that.
My husband hates when we go to a restaurant and they have pictures. People ask in a minute, can you bring us a menu without pictures?
Right.
Because if it does not look like the picture, he's like, it's over.
It's over.
It's over.
It's over. And so same for our lives,
yes.
right? If my children cannot find a marriage that looks like this, I don't want. Now, For me, I've always felt like I never had to be married. And I still say, if it wasn't Ross, just don't worry about it, okay? Because we've been friends for so long that marriage doesn't really feel like what I thought that marriage should feel like. So is your husband someone who is like your best friend? Did you guys meet as friends, or how does that work?
Yes, we met as friends, and we continue to be friends. And I think that's what works for us. Is like, I'm going places with my friend. I'm having fun with my friend. And it just works to be married to someone that you can bare your soul to, that has seen sort of the worst side of you, has forgiven you when they needed to forgive you, and still wants to be there with you. You know, it's just the confidence that's there. And I think that only works because God is in all of this, and in the mix, and directing hearts and souls and mending things where they need to be mended. That's how it works, I think.
And so for Brian being your second husband, was that a lesson that you had to learn from your first marriage? It's like, there has to be God in this space. Well, I'm pretty sure you brought God into the room. I'm sure that's not the case. But then also confidence in yourself. Did that look different for your second marriage? Like, did you walk into this marriage more confident as Vanessa than you did in the first marriage?
I did. I was, this is what you get. One thing I'm not doing ever again in my life at that point was changing who I was, changing how I dressed, or being dictated to. That was not going to work for me anymore. I just had to be who I am, the flower that I am, right? And the one thing, and I tell Sydney this, and I tell anybody that will listen to me, the most important lesson that I learned was to make sure your mate absolutely adored their mother. Oh, absolutely. Because if you can't get along and love the woman that brought you on earth, how do I expect you to do that same and have that same sort of commitment to me? And so that was my big lesson, is that, if you can beef with your mother and not speak to your mother for years, something's wrong with you. Because this is your mother. And so that means you can do that to me. Right? And I didn't give birth to you. Look, go visit the family. Check that dynamic. Because we're going to do this. And getting yourself and your family into, because if you walk in a room and they're like, oh, did she have to bring him? Oops. Sit days. But you get married to somebody that adores their mother. And also somebody that adores themselves. Yes, that too. Because if you walk into a space and you absolutely love yourself and they still questioning if they love themselves, then they're going to be jealous of how you love you because you don't love them like that. Absolutely. It's like, they're looking at you like, how do you do this? And it's just all about self-love and being comfortable. Just eliminating spaces for narcissists. And see, that's what I love about Brian. Narcissists. Learn the definition, learn the signs, and run. That's my advice. But like, Brian is so different. And I'm the people person, and he will get in the room and just people watch, right? And okay with it. Because no FOMO about not talking to these people. Not at all. And he's so solid in who he is, and I'm not changing. He's never going to change who he is to fit. And I love that. I love that. Listen, that's a long journey. I feel like it takes a lot of people a lot of years to get to a place where you could just be comfortable with yourself. I talk to a lot of women, and some women are like, I was 30 before I could go have lunch by myself. I was 30 before I could really truly enjoy my own space. Do you feel like, when do you feel like you've gotten there? Whoa, I'm a Gemini. So, we just love ourselves and lunch with we all right with the world. We want to be with the world, and we want to be with the world, but when we want to be with ourselves, we're with ourselves. Okay. I feel like when you're a Gemini, your pronoun should be them. Yes, it is. I identify with that. I am she, her, them. Yes. Okay, because you don't know who you about to meet today. Right. What is your husband? Now, I'm going to say this too for the ladies in the network. I'm not a horoscope
type of person, but I do believe that Geminis are special people in this world. So what is your husband's sign?
Sagittarius.
Okay.
Yes, and they are so laid back. So I got to make sure that's right. Early December.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because the one in late December is a Capricorn, I think.
Yes, Sagittarius.
Sagittarius.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. You see, that's a Gemini. I don't care about any other sign.
Yeah, and so I only care about the one that I'm married to.
Right.
And then you still have to think about that. Okay,
Right.
I'm married to a Gemini.
Oh, you are so blessed.
Whoa, yes, I am.
Yeah, being married to a Gemini, you get to, you're not just married to one person.
I'm married to
it's adventurous.
him, they.
Yeah. You are blessed. You have no idea. We bring excitement.
You do. Mm-hmm. This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. However, I'm trying to figure out who I'm talking to.
Right.
Who we got in the room? Who have you ushered into this place?
Right.
I'm kidding. Most people that know Ross know that he's a Gem.
Yeah.
And most people that know you know that you're a Gem.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm just a Gemini. That.
Vanessa, the woman, are you proud of who you are today?
I am.
Do you feel like the little girl that you were, look at you now and think, wow, like we're here?
She's giving me high fives.
Oh!
I believe that. Because she was a little girl who lacked so much compared to what others had that were, surrounding her, right? But I found I love to read, always have. So she was a little girl who read a lot and I can go sit by, this is why I like being by myself for lunch and having coffee by myself. Because people are walking in and I'm sitting there actually creating their life story in my head.
In your head.
Yes, and it's
now
fun.
I do that too.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, so books did that for me. Books told
you
me
create
that
characters out of everybody. Me too. I don't think I've ever actually said it like that, but I'm a people watcher. I love that. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, and even I've got good friends that do this with me because we used to go to this Starbucks, and there was this guy we nicknamed him Huck because we were fans of this show, and so it's like we gave him a whole personality.
Yeah,
and we're mad now because we can't find him to follow him around at the coffee shop and make up stories about him. Never talked to him once, but he would watch us intently. It's like, what those girls? We're making up stories about you.
Right.
So I think the little girl who probably thought at the time that this was her world and that she was going to be confined to living as everyone else had lived in her family because that's just what they did. They were, comfortable and okay with it.
And this is all she knew.
But I had a mother that said, you're going to do this. I went to high school, I told you, at Baton Rouge High. But I also was an Upward Bound student. So that meant I went to school Monday through Friday and on Saturdays and in the summers on the campus of Southern University. And Upward Bound is a program for kids and families that, can be, it wasn't middle class at all, right? And it's part of the TRIO program now. But my mother found spaces and places to put me in like that so that I could see what I could be.
Your mom found the resources and you took full advantage of that.
Full advantage. And that's what I want to make sure that I do in this time and space that I have now. Because I'm not here today without Upward Bound. Upward Bound gave me the opportunity to go on my first plane ride to DC for Presidential Classroom that kids at Baton Rouge High were going to, but not black kids, So they took a group, and we were the only group of black kids there.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
To experience that, to meet legislators from our state, Congress people from our state. I've got, pictures with John Breaux. We were able to go to the Supreme Court. It was that sort of exposure that I never would have received had it not been for Upward Bound.
And I think the beautiful difference between you and your mom is that your mom got out there and she found the resources, and now you're in a space where you are creating these resources.
I like that.
And you are like giving other young people a step above what you had. when you were coming up?
Yep, that's what I want to do. Because we can't say that because you don't have it now, or the resources have to be there. The opportunities have to be there, because you don't know who this child is destined to be. And you're not going to tell a kid that you're destined to live in the projects, that you're destined to live below, you know, the standard.
Yeah.
Because you don't know who that child is.
You don't know who that child is.
And the destiny that God has already decided. Because that's one thing about God. The little girl may not have known where I would be today.
Right.
But God knew, because He orders steps. He predestines everything about our lives.
Absolutely. And also, I think that, like, at this point, I'm no longer surprised when I hear stories of people who grew up in like complete poverty that are these super millionaires or these super successful people in their careers, because it's like when you've seen that level, you know that you have nothing to lose.
Nothing.
Like you know what the bottom feels like. You know that it's not unbearable, but you know that it's no place that you want to be.
Right.
Especially in Baton Rouge, you know, it's not a lot of diversity in this city, but there's a lot of Black people here who have made a conscious decision to be better than their parents. And when I say better, it's like not in the sense of like, I think that I'm better than you as a person, but I'm going to find the things that weren't available when you were coming up. I'm going to take full advantage of that. And then from there, I'm going to create more opportunities for more people. I'm not reinventing the wheel, right? But I have the opportunity to do so if I wanted to, because now there's more spaces for us in here.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. It's not that I'm a better person than. I hope I'm the same good-natured, loving and kind person as my mother.
For sure.
But what I wanted to do and what I want my children to continue to do is elevate.
Yes.
And not just elevate for myself.
Yes.
Because that's selfish.
Right.
And this is a community.
Right.
I mean, everything about us, and go back to the church, it's a body.
Yes.
So I can't elevate just myself and think I'm a part of this body.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm a limb.
For sure.
So I've got to elevate the rest so we can all work together.
For sure. You don't have a full hand without a thumb.
You don't. You don't. You know, try it.
Absolutely. You absolutely do not. And kudos to the people who are functioning fine without a thumb. But, you know, that is not the way that God created our hands to be. One person, dead or alive, that you can sit and have this conversation with today, who would it be?
My grandmother.
Oh. How old were you when your grandmother? Well, first of all, is your grandmother still living?
No, she's
okay, not. That's very presumptuous of me to think that she's not. Okay, so how old were you when your grandmother passed?
I was in my 30s.
Oh, wow.
So I had a lot of time with her.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, not enough.
Yeah.
But enough that there are times that I am reminded of her ways and her sayings, and they just come out, you know, and Momo said this and Momo said that. It would definitely be her, because she's the reason I was in church every Sunday. She is the reason I was in Vacation Bible School. She is the reason that every time the doors opened, we were there. Her grandchildren had to be there. The parents had to drop us off on Saturdays and not pick us up until Sunday evening.
Yeah.
And she's the reason that I don't fear public speaking. Now, I get nervous. I don't fear
it, right.
Because she was always volunteering us in the church.
Right.
Like, oh, you want me to learn this 2-page thing? Yeah, you can do it. We're going to practice it.
Right,
you know?
right. Was your grandmother the grandmother with the peppermints?
Yes.
That was handed about?
Absolutely.
Was your grandmother the one that was like pinching you when you don't you fall asleep up in?
Don't you embarrass me in this church.
Don't you fall asleep up in this church now. You hide, I'll give you a fan, but you about to stand up.
My grandmother bought me a dress.
For sure, for sure. And that's also just what grandmothers are all about.
Yes, so it would definitely be her to just say thank you.
Yeah.
For keeping the family together. Because she also had a long marriage. And my papa was something.
Yeah.
Something. He taught me to cook rice. As a kid, because when he came back home late doing the devil's business with his friends.
Oh, you had better have some rice made.
I'd make the rice and fix him an over easy egg.
Oh, well, okay. Shout out to Papa. That's one of my favorite
Mama
meals.
was mad because she got to go to church.
Right.
The next day.
Right. And Mama was like,
I'm not cooking for you.
Right. Figure it out. Figure it out. Okay. Now that's some Louisiana stuff.
It really is.
That's some Louisiana, Mississippi stuff.
That's right. Sorry, Bob. I wouldn't told all your family.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's a safe space. It's a safe space. And so for the young woman who is in undergrad right now, and she's thinking of law school, but she has that same thought, I can't afford it. What would you tell her?
Don't let that be the reason you don't do it.
Yeah.
You absolutely go to the law school. Pierre makes everything possible. Mm-hmm. And I say that. I talk about him so much at the house. He was my professor in law school.
Oh, I love
Actually,
that.
his first year as a professor was my first year in law school. Mm-hmm. So we've had that sort of relationship all these years. Mm-hmm. But I am so proud of what he does there. Those law students don't realize how good they have. Mm-hmm. Every need that they have that is going to increase them as students and make them good lawyers, he provides. Pierre gives them everything they need to succeed. Mm-hmm. They don't pay for books. They have iPads, and I know I can't talk about it. There's something else they're planning for them. And I'm always like in shock because my kids, I call them kids, they're 3 L's. They're adults. Yeah. They're like, okay, do we get a stipend? Do we get this for that? I'm like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
You don't pay for this? And they don't. Because that's a barrier, right?
Wow.
So he is removing
the
barriers.
Come on, black man.
Hello. I mean, I want somebody to say, I mean, he just got this great award, Thurgood Marshall, the Law Chancellor of the Year. I'm totally messing that up. Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. It's a big deal.
That is a huge deal.
You know, and he deserves it.
He does.
The work that he is doing at that law school
does.
Is amazing, and I pray every day we can keep him, honestly.
He does. And it also speaks to, you were not even one of the people that we interviewed when we filmed that documentary about him. Mm-hmm. It was so many people who had such amazing things to say about, you know, his innovation and his thoughts on, like, if it's a thought, it can happen.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And think about that. Yeah. That is exactly the kind of lawyer you want practicing law. So that if he is saying that and doing those things, if you think it, we can do it. Yeah. He's training his students that way.
Raising a whole generation and generation and generation of students to have that thought. Yes. I love that.
Big fan.
I love that. And so now for the little girl, this little black girl who, you know, TV makes everything seem possible now. Yeah. But what about the little girl who's looking at this and thinking this is impossible still? Because I don't know anybody who looks like this. What would you say to her?
It's possible.
Absolutely.
That little girl goes to a classroom every single day, and there's a teacher in that classroom that is teaching possibilities. There are books that you're reading that's teaching possibilities. Yeah. I loved my teachers because they loved me. Like, people don't do this anymore, but my mother would let me go home and spend weekends with my teachers.
Oh, I love
And who does that now, right? You really can't, safety and all that other good stuff. But I had teachers, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had teachers that loved me.
Yes.
And I go back to them. There was a principal that at a school that my mouth got me in trouble with, but I was right.
Yeah.
Because that teacher, I was in a classroom and I was the only one. She never called on me when I would raise my hand. And so
now I'm going to speak out.
I did. I said, you were being a racist.
Yeah. Oh.
And this was middle school. And so I went to the office and he called my mother, had the conversation, and he did not suspend me. He could have.
Right.
And he was a white male. And because he said I get this now, and I know people would be offended by it, but he told me I was different, and I could not have my record mixed up. So I sat in the office with him for an entire day, and did all my classwork there. He had a conversation with that teacher, and I had no problems after that. Now, he has become a principal at a school, and on the one day of the year that we celebrate teachers, he's guaranteed flowers from me, because he literally could have had a record created in the school system.
He could have.
So that I think for him, my voice wasn't a note home. It was a recognition of a leader.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And God will always strategically place people in your life to recognize your strengths, even when everybody else sees that as a weakness.
Yeah, I agree.
So thank you so very much.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Vanessa,
Thank you. I have enjoyed this. Thank you so much for the conversation.
For sure, for sure. I love this. I love everything that you are doing in the community. Thank you for trailblazing this. Thank you for having the courage and the vulnerability to step out and do this so that you can make room for women behind you, for just young girls who just aspire to be who you are. So, wow. And thank you guys so much for joining us today on the Curate Network. You can also find Miss Vanessa on any social media platforms at
Vanessa Caston LaFleur.
Okay, that's on Instagram.
Yes, on Instagram, I'm Red Stick Pretty. Okay. Why? Red Stick is Baton Rouge, and I told y'all I'm an AKA.
And then Twitter?
Yes, VC LaFleur.
VC LaFleur. And do you have a website?
I do, LaFleur for Louisiana.
LaFleur for Louisiana.com. So check her out. She is Googleable.
Yes, I like that word.
I probably made that word up. Thank y'all for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.